Welcome to this week's episode of the Purple Rock Survivor Podcast. I am John. I had expected to be out tonight due to illness, but I'm gonna soldier on through in honor of Andy, who went, I think, the last 2 episodes soldiering on through his illness.
But just in case, we once again got ourselves an injury replacement, who is gracious enough to come in at the last minute, and then once again we refuse to surrender to the throne. But welcome back to the show anyway, Matt.
It's good to be back, guys. For my, 4th time since you guys started up?
4 times. You're the Rupert of this show.
That's right. Oh.
I know. I should be more gracious, Boston Rob.
I was gonna say, there you go.
Of all the people you could be, Rupert is probably not the one you would have picked there.
Yeah, I think what happened is last time on our, first and possibly only video podcast, you made such good points and, fine predictions that I think we're afraid that each of us are going to try to replace the other with you, so.
Well, I was really ready to come in tonight and introduce myself as John and see if anyone noticed.
Yeah. You're like our permanent swing vote. Like, we have to keep you around just in case either of us wants to get rid of the other.
But if you start acting like a diva, watch out.
That's right. Hey, that's a perfect transition to talking about tonight's episode, by the way.
Or last night's episode, even.
It was so good, I forgot which day it aired.
Sometimes it just floats for days. But
yeah.
How amazing is it? We're like 28 seasons in, and this show can still do stuff like that. Like, that's why we waste our nights talking about this, isn't it? Because this show is awesome.
How dare you call it a waste? We invest our time watching this for good returns like last night. So, that part everybody's going to want to discuss is the tribal council. So we should probably start from there and work backwards. What do you guys think?
Sounds good.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. First of all, let's talk about the idols, because we got 2 idols played. Tony just puts his on and says, hey guys, guess what? I got the idol. I'm going to play it tonight, doing basically the Malcolm move, showing people that he has it. LJ, do you guys think he was going to keep his hidden?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, what I thought LJ was doing was I thought that he read the other group after Tony played his idol, and I think he got the feeling that Tony picked wrong, and that's why he played the idol.
So if he hadn't gotten that read, you think LJ was just going to hold the idol and not tell anybody?
Yeah.
Do you think in that situation he tells Tony after Tribal that he has one?
No.
Really?
And I think that's part of why he plays it, is if Tony finds out that, he gave me an idol, I don't know if Tony will be as forgiving as Reynolds was.
You don't think the hold up bro works on Tony as well as it did on Reynolds?
Perhaps not. He's from an earlier generation. It would have to be hold up dude. But I think, if Tony hadn't done all of that, then I think LJ might have played the idol to protect himself. But once, Tony gave it to him, I think LJ probably did think for a little bit. Oh, good. That was a freebie.
Yeah, I think LJ was willing to play his idol for himself if Tony gave it to someone else or played it on himself.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think LJ had it sitting there ready to use it.
I think both Tony and LJ went into that tribal council realizing that it was idol time.
Yeah. And it was.
I agree. Why not up your odds?
Yeah, I mean, this is the moment to seize control of the game.
Yeah, you're 1 down. This is what idols are for. And then I don't think either knew about the others. Actually, I think we can pretty much guarantee neither knew about the others, because otherwise Tony wouldn't have done what he did.
Right. Although I will say, and I'm sort of skipping ahead here because we're going to talk about Trish at some point, but we did see a scene where Trish come up and it's just Tony and LJ hanging out and talking, and it looks like they were having a conversation totally unrelated to Trish, and then Trish just sort of barges in. I kind of get the suspicion that Tony and LJ are a little tighter than we've been led to believe so far.
Yeah, I think that's a really tight alliance.
Yeah, no, and I think, I think you can tell just by the way Tony acted all episode. He even said, I like these people. I kind of miss the whole deception part of the game because I think he didn't like his original alliance, and you can see how comfortable he seems to be with these people.
And I think that was also what led to what were possibly mistakes last week that we talked about, where he was, oversharing and he was all final five. It's he was finally happy where he was at. And maybe it sheds a different light on the early part of the season. Maybe he was being excluded a bit by, Lindsay and Cliff and the Cool Club. Or maybe, he set himself apart to be excluded because that's how he wanted to play Survivor at first, and now he's kind of turned it around on that.
Or, it might not even be excluded. He might just have not gotten along with them. And they were the core.
And it could be, like Andy said, just a mid-game course correction, which is kind of rare, but I guess it does happen.
Yeah.
Well, every day you're in there, you have a little bit more experience on how to play the game. But yeah, I think they are the more bonded tribe, and it shows, I mean, this episode tells us everything. But what's interesting about the tribal council is everybody but, let's say, one person kind of played it right. Tony and LJ ultimately were wrong. Neither of them actually had to play the idol, but there's no way you know that. And you'd have to be on some crazy voodoo stuff to, guess Jeffra.
Well, I will say that I think it was pretty obvious it wasn't Tony when the other alliance said out loud other person or other guy or whatever. I think it's pretty obvious that they were switching off of Tony. It would take stone cold, ginormous balls to switch on to Tony when he's announced that he has an idol.
So then do you think LJ made the mistake?
I think LJ did not make a mistake playing the idol. I think LJ made a mistake on who he played it on.
Yeah, but he couldn't have known Jeffra, though. I mean, what would have prompted him to think Jeffra?
Well, it would just narrow it down to two then, Jeffra or Trish.
Yeah, I don't see LJ in that situation. It just wouldn't be smart for him to take the risk and not play it on Tony after Tony just gave him the idol.
Right. It also does things for LJ's social game that were obviously playing the idol for Tony, I think, will make Tony more loyal to him. Some people disagree, but I actually think that I don't think Tony's going to betray LJ.
Oh no, I think, Broliance was, cemented in that move. I think, now that we've had a day, it's totally not heat of the moment. We're in our comfy homes deciding. So I don't fault LJ for not coming to this thought, because I don't think I even came to when I was watching. But maybe the move for LJ would have been when Tony was coming over to play the idol for him, for LJ to be like, hold up, bro. And say, you know what? I'm good. I got my own. And then Tony could have played his for somebody else.
Yeah, but again, who's he going to play it on? I still think...
I think he picks Trish and it's still wrong.
Yeah.
If you're going through the list, I think Jeffra's the last person you'd play it on. Well, I mean, Wu is the last person you play it on, but.
Yeah, because you don't need
Which is, of course, why they chose Jeffra.
Yeah, and that's kind of gets to my other point. The other side did this right. They talked it through. They came up with second options, early in the episode, and we'll talk about this a little, more when we talk about a certain person, but they were like, no, we gotta pick the least most likely person. And
I like you say a certain person as if everyone listening doesn't know it's Cass.
No, I'm talking about Sarah.
I think you meant Sarah there.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, don't worry, there's plenty of bad talk to go around. But they nailed it. They figured it out. They moved to Jeffra. They outmaneuvered the other side, and if, one person doesn't screw everything up, they'd be good to go.
Yeah, like you said, they did it perfectly. They actually executed the Fiji strategy, which I think we had discussed maybe last week.
Just last week with Diego, yep.
Yeah. So they did it totally right and still lost because #ChaosCass.
Yeah, Cass. That was a remarkably bad move.
And Andy and I, when discussing this, his question to me was, Cass, wrong move or wrongest move? And I don't know for sure that it's the worst move. It's pretty bad. I mean, I can see some sort of justification in her head for why it made sense, but...
This is why it's not the worst move ever. It didn't send her home. Yet.
Yeah, she wasn't even the worst player last night, but this was still really, really bad.
Yeah, this was really high up there on the awfulness list.
Well, because it's just so unnecessary, and, I get it. Sarah was being dumb. Cass was right. Everybody else was right that it should, hey, LJ and Tony are the most likely to have idols. And guess what? They did. So we vote for somebody else. But even if, you're fed up with Sarah and all of that, and even if you have that conversation with Trish and they tell you you're voting out Sarah, at that point you're in the clear. Like, if everything goes wrong and they vote for Tony and he plays an idol, Sarah goes home. Like, what do you care about if you're cast? There's no reason for you to switch your vote. And then if the other side was lying and that they weren't voting for Sarah, then flipping your vote to Sarah doesn't help one iota. So it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think she probably views this as a swing for the fences. I'm going for final three, and I don't see it with this tribe kind of move. But that means then that she must see it by flipping to the other side, and I don't see that. I don't see how she sees a final three opportunity with the other group.
She somehow thought that she was in a poor position on her original tribe because Sarah was just on a power trip, and a power trip that was quite obviously like not going to last that long. Whereas Cass was in an alliance of 3 on a 6-person tribe. I really don't get why she was, freaking out so much because she went, and by flipping, she goes from the position of power in a majority alliance to being like the 6th wheel.
Yeah, a lot of the comments this week were about, was this a Cochran move when in South Pacific? No, not remotely, because Cochran was basically screwed on either tribe. He just decided to roll the dice and flip to the other side just to see if he might have a better situation.
Well, it is kind of a Cochran move, just so much worse. It's like, it's the same thing. She picked a side, but here's, the differences. Like you said, Cochran, really, whatever. He lost to people he liked better than losing to people he didn't. And also, he was in a tie situation if he doesn't flip. So he saved himself from a rock. And it's not like we've never seen people that were, willing to go to rocks lose, because that's like the only times that it ever happened, Pascal and Katie. But, yeah, she had the numbers. She had the numbers within the numbers. And if the edit is to be trusted, she gave this a whole lot of thought, because I think basically that was a last-second play by Trish. Like, it wasn't like this was like a 3-day or even a 1-day plan where she has now set herself up to advance on the other side and she's got final 3 deals or anything. It was just kind of like Trish was like, hey, if you want to get rid of Sarah, we'll do that for you. And she was like, yes!
Did seem a little rushed there. That seemed like, a couple hours before Tribal, we've made the call, and Tony, LJ, guess what? We're voting Sarah now.
Yeah, and I think probably before that they hadn't decided yet because they were waiting for Sarah to pick. And this has basically been Cass's MO the entire season. She decided to vote out Garrett at Tribal Council. She decided not to vote out Jatia, I guess, or to not vote out Spencer at Tribal Council. So, yeah, she's a real great long-term strategist when she just basically flies by the seat of her pants and makes up whatever decision she's feeling at the moment. Bravo, Cass.
Speaking of strategy, she said in one of her confessionals that she really wants to punch Sarah. Again, one of those not very well thought out plans, unless there was a part that we didn't see where she said, but I also want Sarah to be tied down so she can't hit me back in any way.
Sorry, I'm going to punch the cage fighting cop in the mouth.
Right.
Show her what's what. This is why Lindsay walked away, people.
This season's all about the girl on girl violence, man.
This actually leads into a question we got, and I had it down the list, but now I think it's kind of perfect to insert here. It came from Twitter. It came from my brother-in-law, Billy, who was on the show earlier. John actually talked to him, but we have no recorded proof of that. And basically his question is, in the game of Survivor, does flipping work? Or has it ever worked? And when he sent me this question, I was like, and then I kind of got a little sad, because I think the answer is no, and that's not very interesting.
Well, I know the first place that your mind went, and I guess in the end it didn't work, but the first one that comes to mind is Rob C. And I don't know that you can say it didn't work. Mm-hmm. I mean, it really, he was an immunity challenge away from basically winning. If he had made the final 2 with either of those 2 people, I think he wins.
Well, he beats Matt easy, and I think he also beats Jenna. But it'd be closer.
Yeah, it's closer with Jenna, but I think he probably wins there.
Yeah, agreed.
Unless, Christy didn't understand how she was voting, right?
I don't think that it's necessarily a bad idea. It doesn't often pay off because you essentially burn bridges, and so you have to get your jury votes elsewhere, which gets tough.
Matt, what do you think?
Rob's the only person that came to mind as getting close. There's a long history of it really biting people in the butt. Penner and Cook Islands, he got voted off 2 episodes later for flipping. Obviously Cochrane didn't last too long for flipping.
Candace in Heroes vs. Villains.
Yeah, Candace in Heroes vs. Villains. Right, she got voted off, what, the next episode or something?
The next episode, yeah.
Yeah.
Christy. Oh no, sorry, that's a bit of a difference. But.
Yeah, Christy didn't flip, which is why she got voted off. She wouldn't commit to anything. She even pulled the exact same line. And Rob C. pointed this out. Christy said the exact same thing to him, which is that she said, I'll decide at tribal council tonight.
Yeah, which is never something you want to hear. So, yeah, I can't think of a successful...
Yeah, I mean, it basically depends on your definition of does it work. I think it's worked for some people to further themselves in the game, and it's possible those people may have won had they made it all the way to the jury. So I don't like the Rob C is the example, and I don't think flipping cost him the opportunity to go. He didn't get to go because he was a threat to win.
Okay, here's an example, and tell me whether you think this qualifies. Tyson.
Yeah, that was actually... I went through the list, so I went through the winners after this question came, and most of them was like, no, kind of. Because then the next thing is like, you have to define what a flip is. I think this early in the game flip is pretty tough to overcome. If you're just flipping on one person or 2 people, I think there's a couple winners, like Denise flipping on Malcolm, if you consider that a flip. But yeah, Tyson flipped on Aris, and Tina.
At the merge, too.
Yeah. So, there's recent history of it being pretty successful. But I think the difference is, and Rob C. pointed this out last night, I'm tired of stealing stuff, he flipped with other people, and those other people were with him in the jury. But if you're the only flipper, against this many people, I think you're screwed.
The problem with flipping isn't the fact that you betray a lot of people, it's the fact that the brunt of your betrayal is all on you. So they focus on you as the reason why they didn't win the game. If you flip with other people, you can spread that blame around. Tyson flipped with Jervis, and Jervis took all the blame for it.
And Monica, right? And that was he was in. And that's why you make sure to keep those people with you. And Rob C. made this point. Like, he flipped, but he took Matt and Butch with him. So it wasn't just his fault, but yeah, Cochrane, they would not have thrown water on him if he was on fire, much less give him a final jury vote. Sugar was not getting anybody's votes. Skipping ahead a bit, but Cass isn't going to get anybody's vote either, and that's like the final part of how, worst move or worstest move. Not only did she go from a very good position, she's just basically, damned herself for, 5 other people.
But here's a question. Does it increase her chances of coming back on the show in the future?
To an extent, yes, but a big part of that, though, is just the demographic role she's filling. As Probst has said, they have trouble finding compelling female characters. Much more so, I think, if you're going to give that any credence, then they have a much harder time finding an older female character. I mean, they brought back Tina last season, which was a fairly deep pull. There's just not a large pool for them to draw from there. So I think Cass at least pushes herself higher in that pool.
Well, except for this. You know what would have been given her a better chance of coming back? Winning this season.
Agreed.
And, she was in a much better position to do that before she flipped than she is now.
Oh, you think that helps? Ask Vesepia how much that helps.
I think if Cass wins, it's not because of a Vesepia type win. It would have been closer to a Denise type win. Or Sandra. And Sandra obviously has come back, and I think Denise will.
And you remember all those Natalie White reappearances?
I don't. Again, Cass isn't going to win like Natalie White would win, because there are differences between the two of them. But, I mean, I guess if she's continuously villainous, but I don't know if this is the kind of villain that audiences wants to see again.
Well, let's talk about the villain that everybody wants to see, though, because I don't think I'd give him the MVP of this episode, because I think you and I agree where the MVP goes this time. But what about Tony's moves again? I thought his pitch to Sarah, again, is just perfect encapsulation of his season. Right pitch, wrong execution. Everything he said was totally right, but man, he did a bad job selling it.
Yeah, and I mean, we're basically a broken record on this point. He's just too aggressive and too enthusiastic, and that was the problem. But I will say that nobody's pitches with Sarah worked, so maybe she was the problem.
We've said a lot of times, and I think we even gave Matt credit for having established this rule. You don't play the post-merge game pre-merge. That's Rule 1A of Survivor. But Rule 1B is always say yes. And Sarah, inexplicably, can't just say, yeah, Tony, I'm in with you, and then just flip on him. Why? I don't get why people can't understand this basic point by this point.
Because she had to swear on her badge. I think Sarah's problem is just that she has, unlike Tony, who can separate the game from his real life, I think, very easily. I think a lot of contestants do have trouble doing that. And there's always some, line that they take really seriously that other people kind of look at them and they're like, really? You're going to get that hung up about that? And we've seen that in past seasons. People, like, if they swear on something, they're like, I will never go back on that. You can trust this. And then they hate their alliance. And in one season, there was, Shane Powers in Panama was like, I have to take back my swear. Let me take it back. So people get like really, fixated on some stuff that they do in order to convince other people that they're serious. And they sometimes they just can't cross that line mentally. And I bet that's what it was for Sarah too. Tony was like, swear on your badge. And for Sarah, that's like really, really serious. Tony knows it's a bunch of
BS.
Crap.
Yeah.
Now, to be fair to Tony, and seems to be the fight he's fighting today on Twitter, of the two people that swore on their badge earlier in the season, one of them kept their word and one of them didn't, and it's not the two people you would have expected. Sarah was ready to vote Tony out tonight. Tony was not ready to vote Sarah out.
Yeah, I mean, and when Trish came up to him and said, Cass wants to vote Sarah out, I think we can get her. Tony had already come to the conclusion that Sarah wasn't with them.
Yeah, I think he got the vibe from Sarah when she wasn't willing to commit and when she was saying things like, oh, I'll decide at Tribal. I think it was loud and clear for him right then. And he just went, well, okay, that strategy didn't work. And then I think their plan B was just play the idols and hope, or play the idol. He only knew about the one and hope that it landed on the right person.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not even sure if they knew about the possibility of Cass. I'm not sure if Trish had time to really disseminate that information.
Yeah, I think Trish probably told them. I just don't think that, either way, he was going to play the idol and hope, because I don't know how confident he was that Cass was flipping.
Yeah. But getting back to Sarah, the last fair thing I'm going to say about her before we really talk about how bad she was, it kind of goes back to the point we made about flipping. And Sarah was put in a situation where she was flipping on somebody, and she was clearly very concerned about that. She kept saying, I hold the fate of 5 people in my hands. I hold the fate of 5 people in my hands. So, I believe Tash, or maybe Cass is like, no, you hold your own fate. But I think that's where the paralysis came from her. She didn't want to piss off future jury members. And that's why being the swing vote is not only terrible because this, it's basically a trope now. When you talk about the power you're going to have, you're probably going home. But it sucks because you're that one person that gets to decide, who's going to be on the jury, and those people might remember it.
Actually, Sarah proclaimed herself president of the game at that point. And I know you're Canadian, Andy, so I'll explain this to you. A president is elected by the people to be a representative.
Well, I think it's actually elected by some kind of weird electoral college or something. Isn't that how it works?
I don't remember civics class, but neither should you because you're not American.
Now, tell me how the prime minister is picked.
So the important thing here is, much like a president, Sarah tried to do her own thing, and Congress stepped in and said, no thanks, we're going to impeach and convict you, and Sarah got totally screwed over because she apparently equated president with dictator, and they're not the same thing.
Well, and also, just like the president, though, to extend my analogy, she didn't want to piss off any part of her base.
She should have offered them all free health care.
I think that would piss off half of her base.
What? You're going to try to give me free stuff? But yeah, so I think that was what was going on in Sarah's brain, and she was in a tough spot, but she could not have played it worse. And here's my question to you guys, and it's mostly for John, and then Matt can laugh at us, but who's been more wrong this season? Sarah or, you and me on this podcast?
Ooh, that is a very close competition. I think, though, Sarah's got us just narrowly edged out.
Maybe just due to opportunity. She's had more, but, like, she was wrong about everything last night, and then you stretch back to pretty much episode 2, and she's been wrong about everything since.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing she really got right was episode 1, figuring out Tony's a cop.
Yeah, she got that, and she was like, I'm good, I'm done thinking now.
Yeah, it's been all downhill from there.
And that's actually why people thought she was going to be really good coming in, because that was like in her preview video. She's like, there's another guy. I'm almost positive he's a cop. And everyone's like, wow, like what great powers of observation. She's going to be so good at reading people. Good Lord, were we wrong about that?
Oh boy. Yeah, I don't know if we were more wrong on our initial impressions of Spencer or Sarah. Because Spencer, we went the total opposite direction, and we're like, wow, this guy's going to be the worst. And he's been totally tolerable.
Honestly, the list of people we were right about is much smaller than the people we were wrong about. I mean, you would love to talk trash to me about my pick, Sarah, being eliminated, except, of course, Jatia.
Although, in fairness to me, I did say LJ was going to win this season. I just said I was going to root for Jatia.
Yeah, LJ's the only one so far I feel like we were right about. And, yeah, nobody cares about your fantasy team. I'm going to talk about it anyway. I was this close to picking LJ. Whoa, it's so disappointing.
Yeah, well, you got the Cops Were Us team.
Yeah, and I'm not out of it yet. I've done a complete 180, and we'll get to that. But yeah, so did Sarah do anything good?
No.
I kind of think she was holding the original. Well, no, but I don't think that's even true. I was going to say I thought she was holding the original Braun Alliance together, but I think that was Cliff.
Yeah, and she was the one trying to throw challenges to get rid of him.
That's another thing she did wrong. She couldn't even throw a challenge.
Yep. No, you'd think I'd be more sad about her.
She was trying to throw a basketball challenge with Cliff Robinson on the basketball end.
Well, I mean, that shows another great decision by her.
We should be having the discussion, who had a worse season, Jatia or Sarah? It's pretty close.
I don't think it's close at all. I mean, Sarah did win a bunch of immunities, and she was instrumental in that, but...
I make jokes.
Sarah was impressively bad at Survivor. Jatia was just bad at life.
Aw.
But yeah, while watching, and they were all talking, very simple strategy that, when it's this close, and it's this first tribal, and idols are out there, we just pick the person least likely. And she was like, no, that's stupid. We have to attack the strength. What advantage is it to get rid of Trish? Now, I think she was trying to protect Trish for a possible alliance down the road.
Right, and that came through loud and clear. I think that's what made them hesitant.
Yeah, I understand why Cass was not happy about her, but Cass also kind of created that situation. It's like she hadn't watched the show since, I don't know, Marquesas or something.
Yeah, she still had this thing where you have to be honorable in order to win or something.
Well, and also that you got to attack strength, and there's only one way, and she doesn't understand. She just didn't want to admit the possibility that idols could be out there. And it's like, well, do you have the idol? Because if it's not you, then it's either Wu,
yeah,
Tony, or Trish.
Let's do process of elimination here.
Cliff probably didn't have it. Lindsay probably didn't have it. And then, and everybody but Cass, you could just see when they were talking, they were like, is she for real? How is she not getting this? But because they weren't stupid, they were like, well, we need her on our side, so we're not going to alienate her. But not Cass. Her go-to move is to tell somebody that she doesn't like them and she's thinking about voting them out.
Yeah, Cass even started the episode doing that, which is what made it so crazy. She started the episode by telling Sarah, oh, I don't trust you. And, Sarah's reaction to that was really awful, by the way. It was like, how can you not trust me? I voted with you once. Of course I'm with you. I'm saying that I am. And I understand why Cass wouldn't trust Sarah, but you don't tell Sarah that right away.
Yeah, no, you say it to the camera. And I guess, in interviews today, Sarah's been saying that, from the day the swap happened, Cass was like, if we don't win, you're going home. Cass is just terrible. And I don't even think, she had a problem with Sarah until Sarah fought back. I think Cass is just bad with people. I think Cass's MO is that she sneers at anybody that she doesn't think is worthy of her, which is everybody.
Are you suggesting that a lawyer looks down on other people, Andy?
Lawyers are the worst.
I know I do.
Lawyers and accountants, man.
Lawyers and accountants, the two worst people on earth.
Yeah.
we have this situation basically of Cass's making. I think if Cass just does, simple Survivor things of making people whose votes you need feel like they are needed, this probably doesn't happen, and maybe Sarah's even willing to, listen to logic. I think at that point she dug in. It's like, screw you, I'm gonna do what I say. Tasha tried to smooth things over, and I thought it was a really good play by her. It's just...
I think you're giving this way too much credit. I want to like Tasha, and I see why you think what she did was a good move, but I think it's sort of the same thing as Tony. She had a good idea, and she was trying to smooth it over, but her execution was a little off. I mean, she says to Sarah, well, you'll just vote out Cass, right in front of Cass. And, I mean, it was a good line to say, hey, you don't have to be friends to vote together, because that's true, and that's a good sales pitch. But, I mean, first of all, Cass took that, she was, again, in her usual way, very petty, and took that as some kind of Tasha betraying her in front of Sarah. But either way, I don't think she nailed the landing.
I think Tasha saw that there was definitely a problem between the two. I don't think she realized how much of the problem was on Cass's end. I think she thought the problem was more on Sarah's end, and I think one of the reasons why Tasha spent so much time, trying to build up and comfort Sarah and reassure her of her position within their group was because she thought that, well, Sarah's more likely, Sarah's the one that's likely to flip. She must be freaking out, and Cass isn't handling this. Let me talk her down. I don't think she realized that what was happening was Cass was freaking out and at Sarah, and it was just exacerbating the problem. And
well, you would think, having lived with Cass much longer than she's been on the beach with Sarah, she might have gotten that hint at some point that maybe Cass isn't the most stable individual.
That's a good point.
I mostly wanted to bring it up because a few episodes I totally blasted Tasha and called her the worst player in the game now that Gia was gone. And now I think that it was basically she was trying all she could to keep her sanity together while being with, all those terrible people on Brains. And if maybe you put Tash in a situation with a few more sane people who act rationally, she'd be okay.
Well, I really want to like Tasha as a quote-unquote fellow accountant, according to Andy. But to me, I'll make this analogy just to offend our audience as much as possible. It's kind of like the good-looking person surrounding themselves with ugly friends so that they look better when they go out to the bar. I feel like we're giving Tasha and probably even Spencer a little too much credit just because they were surrounded by such terrible people that in comparison they look great. But so far they've had fairly average games. I wouldn't call them great players yet.
I would agree with that assessment.
So somebody that we haven't been giving enough credit to, that, I think we have to start right now, was who I believe was the episode MVP, Trish. Who knew?
Absolutely.
That was amazing. I don't think we ever expected that from Trish, and I'm actually almost as amazed that we actually got to see the social game there. That's the move we always talk about. You have to be able to suss that stuff out, and she clearly saw what was going on from afar, that Sarah's leading the conversation and that Cass would probably be offended by that, and picked out Cass as the one to go up to and say, hey, we're here for you if you want to flip.
She said the exact right thing to Cass, which is just, if you want to vote out Sarah, we will vote out Sarah, and all you have to do is just throw your vote that way. That was it. That's what you got to say.
Yeah, and it wasn't a big, hard sales pitch or anything like that. It was just, hey, just so you know, I think you want to vote out Sarah, we're with you. So all you have to do, you don't have to make some big commitment to us, just we're going to vote there, you vote there with us.
Right, and that's the exact right way to sell that.
Yeah, and even earlier in the episode, she was the one that sniffed out the tension. She's observant. She knew what to do. And now this brings us into our next reader question. And this one also comes from Twitter, from our friend XL Pelican. It's true or false? The most strategically influential person this season with actual outcomes has been Trish. And after I'd watched that episode, I was impressed by Trish. I think all of us, the same moment, whoa. Not only that she was able to do it, but that she thought to do it. But after this question, I had to think, is like, has Trish been the best player all season long and we just haven't noticed because, the voice or whatever?
No.
Yeah, can I just say something real quick? Being the survivor with the most true outcomes in terms of, like, controlling who's voted out doesn't mean you're the best player, nor does it mean you're going to win. Scoopin in the Philippines was on the side that voted every single person out after the merge, which not even Denise or Malcolm could say, nor even Lisa, who was his ally. And he wasn't, within spitting distance of winning.
Yeah, but the difference there is Scoopin was voting what people told him to vote. Trish has dictated the exits of everybody since, the swap. She was the one that made the move to form the alliance with LJ and Jeffra to vote out Cliff. And then when Lindsay tried to come back at her, she came back stronger, and bye-bye Lindsay. And then this time, she saved their asses.
Can't argue with any of that.
Like, I'm not saying that she's in the best position to win. We put her in the 0% club, and I feel okay about that. But as of right now, I mean, who's been playing better? Like, we all, I think, feel like LJ's in the best position to win, but really, what has he done other than, hey, awesome, people are throwing me lifelines, I'll continue to use them.
Yeah, but, I mean, we don't fault Sandra for taking every lifeline that she gets and just riding the wave and only acting when she has to. I think I kind of agree with Matt here. Trish is making more effective moves, but I don't think that necessarily makes her in a better position or a better player.
And then here's the last one. There was 3 people picked on day 1 to not be with the group. And then she gets to the camp. She gets to make the decision between idol or food. She chooses food and immediately is welcomed back. She was in an alliance with the person that voted her out, unlike Morgan, who basically decided that moment, I'm never talking to these people again, or Garrett, who, got voted out, that episode for us. I kind of feel like we just haven't been giving her any credit. And why? Because Lindsay didn't like her? But I think she deserves a lot more credit than she's been getting from me or others.
I think she's played a better game than we've given her credit for. But part of that is that we haven't gotten to see necessarily every part of her game.
And her new alliance, there was no... It's actually very surprising how strong it has proven to be. When she kept LJ around, everyone assumed that just meant that LJ would get back together with his beauty tribe and would then flip on those guys later. But that's not happening. They are sticking close, and you could, and it's hard to tell who's really responsible for that. But yeah, I mean, you could give a lot of credit to Trish for that. It worked out that way. She probably, she couldn't have known it would work out that way.
But what she could know is that she stood a better chance of being in the middle of this than she was being 5th with, Woo, Cliff, Lindsay, and Tony.
Right.
And she created that situation. It was entirely her move. Tony followed her lead on that one. My question would be, who's done better things in the game than her right now? Because I can only think of one name.
Yeah, and Tony is the name, I'm assuming.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Again, might not lead to victory, but sometimes people don't have to do a lot to go to victory. Some people are more predisposed to win, and I think Trish is not one of those people. But for herself and her type of player, she went from, let's vote out the old lady to, let's save my alliance.
Yeah, I mean, and it'll be interesting to see what would happen if she makes Final 3, because she would have a very good argument. I just don't think people are going to buy that argument.
And the last thing is, the people who most dislike Trish are no longer in the game.
That is true. I mean, she got out her biggest enemies and got them out before the merge, so they couldn't come back to haunt her in any way.
So, We'll see if she continues to annoy people. So, 0% Club, where I jump the gun and put people who have no chance to win the game and then regret it deeply.
I think Spencer stole our thunder this week.
100%.
He really did. He used the 0% line. I was like, oh, come on, that's our gimmick.
Yeah, clearly he's listening to our podcast in the future.
And then traveling back to survive. Wait a minute, that doesn't work.
Yeah. We don't need to discuss it that much further. Cass has 0% chance of winning Survivor, right?
Not gonna happen. What possible final three could Cass have that would actually allow her to win?
It would have to be a massively objectionable final three, and I don't see that there's enough massively objectionable people left.
Yeah, I think she is the most massively objectable person.
Could she beat Morgan?
She
Yes.
might, but that's the only way is if it's a final two.
And it's her and
and she
Morgan.
beats Morgan.
And that's not going to happen. Like, the preview has told us those two aren't getting back together. And also Morgan's history of quickly forgiving the people that wrong her doesn't suggest that this might be the move. Yeah, and here's the thing, like, not only did she betray a bunch of people, and thus they're less likely, but basically, we just spent a lot of time talking about how deeply unlikable she comes across to people, so I don't see how she smooths it over with people anyway. And I don't even think she feels like she should. Like, she was smugly sitting there afterwards, like, hey, we'll see.
Yeah, she seems the type to really be glorying in her momentary power. Rather than, again, like, she doesn't think down the road. At all.
I was amused that she totally usurped Sarah's swing vote position, though. And I think she also usurped Sarah's totally tenuous position in the game at the same time.
Yeah, Cass, 0% chance of winning. Any other names?
I will probably hold off from adding anybody else this week. What about you?
Myself, I already wish I hadn't put some people in there. Namely Tony. Oh, what a dumb move that was.
Well, I will say, though, that, I mean, your odds when you add people to the 0% club are still pretty good. There's only going to be one winner.
Matt pointed this out last time, and I might end up being right. Like, Tony might not win. But to say right now that he has no chance of winning is a bald-faced lie. He has a very good chance of winning.
Not to say right now. To say in week 1 that he had no chance of winning, because that's when you said it.
Well, see, I wasn't lying, yeah. But, like, I don't... Yeah, so I'm stuck with that, obviously, because that's the rules of the game that I made up. But I don't believe it anymore. I think he has a very good chance of winning. Not the best chance, but it's real.
Andy, me and you were discussing this on the AV Club comments, but do you think that one of the reasons why we jumped so quickly to 0% Tony at the beginning was because Tony is playing the exact opposite of what is usually the winning strategy on Survivor, which is to be very risk-averse. You choose your moments wisely, and you don't act that often. Tony's the exact opposite of that. Tony is just, every move he makes is totally, risk-laden? I don't even know what the opposite. Mr. Accountant, what's the opposite of risk-averse?
Risk-taking. I mean, really, we've kind of discussed this before. Risk doesn't scare him at all. He's just like, I'm going to try everything and see what sticks.
Right, so my point is, do we just not have a proper framework of what a risk-taking winner edit looks like?
Yeah, I mean, that's why I did it, right? You saw him from the first minute of the game, like, first time we were introduced to him. He's looking at ways of messing people over and all of that, and it's like, nobody wins like that. But you know what? There's a lot of times that people have won that nobody had won like that before, and maybe he's a new archetype. And I think we figured that aggression, and I keep saying we, I gotta own this, I felt like that aggression would carry over to the way he treated people. And it has to a degree. Like we discussed, this is why he was not able to convince Sarah. But by all indications, he seems to be pretty decent to people. Like, he's saying that he's willing to cut all their throats and stuff in confessionals. But in the moment, he's saying the things. And even when he's talking to Sarah, he was like, tell us what you need. When the other tribe was, putting her on a pedestal, and that was annoying Trish, he was like, no, that's what you're supposed to do. We should do it too. Like, he actually seems to understand the social dynamics. He lacks some ability in that area, some finesse, but not that much. And yeah, he's trying everything, and nothing's come back to hurt him yet. It's like the poker player that just keeps playing hard. And taking advantage of everybody else's tendency to fold can sometimes do well, and maybe that's what's happening here.
Actually, he's kind of like, to use a poker term, he's kind of like a calling station. He's the guy that's just gonna, he just keeps calling, and it's not always it's usually a terrible strategy to be calling rather than betting, but at the same time, it's like, sometimes those guys just keep winning, and they just keep turning the card. And right now, Tony, he's winning. He keeps turning up his cards, and everything's going his way right now. And
everything we predicted earlier that could backfire almost at this point can't. Like
it's all gone out of the game.
Yeah, like even the final five, baby. Well, I think it kind of worked. Like those 5 people are united, and the person that was most cheesed off about it is gone.
Yeah, and this is the other thing. I think people might not trust Tony. Like, I think they kind of see that he's a game player.
Absolutely.
I don't think people dislike Tony, though. And that's a huge difference. Because people will cast a jury vote at the end for someone they didn't trust. Because they'll be like, wow, I didn't trust this guy, and he still made it to the end. But not if they also don't like him.
Right. We've seen plenty of instances where the I don't like him, he's not getting my vote thing happens. But I agree. I don't think that Tony is not liked. I just think that I think give a lot of credit to his confessionals that he's this big schemer, but we don't get to see a lot of his social time around camp and dealing with people. He could be a very well-liked person, just apparently not by Cliff or Lindsay.
Yeah, well, even there, like, they didn't like Trish more than they didn't like him. Like, they thought Tony was on their side. I think everybody gets that feeling that, there's something a little shady about Tony. But I don't think they dislike spending time with him. And as Matt said, if he can continue on and he's in good position, then they'll just be like, hey, we should have done something about it, and he beat us to it. And also, I kind of get the feeling like this cast won't be that, won't judge somebody terribly for outplaying, because they all are trying to do it. Like almost everybody out here seems, absolutely willing to flip on somebody.
Which kind of leads into a point that I wanted to discuss later on, but I'll move it up and talk about it right now. Do you think that we're getting a larger percentage of fans this season than we normally do?
It's entirely possible. I'm always a little anxious to diagnose somebody as a fan or a recruit, especially because plenty of recruits are also fans. But it certainly seems like a lot of people talking and playing understand the playbook.
Yeah, it just feels to me like it's not a crowd where they had to watch the mandatory one season before they went on the show. I just feel like a lot of these people are longtime fans. Like Jeffra's crying as she's potentially getting voted out, and I think it's because she's a longtime fan. And Jeremiah, for all the jokes we've made about him, I think he's actually a fan of the show too. And I kind of wonder if, now that Survivor's beating American Idol in ratings, if we're actually going to start getting more of these all-newbie seasons, and we're going to have more applicants than recruits now.
I think I think it'd be great to get more newbie seasons. I don't know how many of these people, were applicants and how many were recruits. I imagine even if they were fans, as Andy said, a bunch of them were still recruits. And, a lot of the people we could point to as being recruits, I think a lot of the people who were most noticeably recruits and had the least grasp on the game happened to be the people that left pre-merge.
And, the very first person voted out this time, I think, was a fan, given that he left his high-profile job in the middle of it to come.
Crazy.
Actually, just quick on Jeremiah, you've been making a lot of jokes about him. I kind of maintain that there's been nothing wrong with Jeremiah so far, except that, he talks like the people who live around him talk, so thus we assume he's stupid. But he's done nothing wrong. He seems to be well socially engaged in the tribe that he has found himself in. I think he was right to weigh his options at the beginning, and then he chose the right path.
Well, you just, I think, made my own point, because he's socially engaged with the tire fire of a tribe that was the Brains group. So how well does that speak for him?
They were his best option once the swap happened. Or was he better off going with Alexis and Morgan, who were sniping at each other?
No, isn't it his better move to flip back over to LJ and Jeffra?
I don't think that was an option. And I guess another thing, behind the scenes, whatever, I think that whole tribe said, flippers will die, Like, anybody who flips is not getting our vote. So that was, which is a good move. You should always say that to discourage people
Definitely.
from flipping. But yeah, in the discussions where Sarah couldn't understand what was, the right move, Jeremiah knew it.
Yeah, and he seemed pretty surprised that Sarah couldn't figure this out.
But as a good social player, he shut his mouth because, she was important. But yeah, it's a good cast. It's a good season. And thus, we only have, I don't know how many more people I'm going to add to the 0% Club because I'm starting to get a little gun shy.
Well, the editing this season, I think, has also been just different than most recent seasons. I think in most recent seasons, I think right now, it was pretty obvious who was the winner. And while I still think there's a clear front runner this season, I don't think it's nearly as clear as it was the past couple.
I think a lot of the front runner, it's LJ we're talking about. We basically just, cause that was our first impression, he's done nothing to dissuade that. And he feels like a winner in the ways that a lot of the other people around him don't. But he actually hasn't done that much to distinguish himself. So yeah, I don't know.
I just think that if LJ gets to the end, he plays you guys all thought I was the biggest threat, and yet here I stand.
Oh no, if LJ gets to the end, he's gonna win. Because he'll have to do something awesome to get himself there. At this point in the game, he has been not that active a player, which, frankly, isn't a terrible strategy. You don't need to be that active. But it's almost like we're assigning traits to him because they're not in anybody else, and he hasn't proven that they aren't in him.
I actually think that Andy made a good analogy there, because what we're kind of doing is if you follow college sports and they do the top 25 polls, we made a preseason poll, we put him at number 1, and until we see otherwise, we're going to leave him at number 1, despite...
Yeah, he might not have the impressive victories yet, but he hasn't lost, and...
Wait, so you're saying that he's Kentucky this year? That,
pretty much.
And he's going to end up winning the entire thing despite having a mediocre season?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to move on to our next to final segment, I think. We're going to do something a little different, even though this was a big episode that we, obviously could talk a lot about. We want more people to follow our podcast, so we're doing some shameless BuzzFeedy type SEO and hopping aboard the Game of Thrones train. So Game of Thrones is coming back on Sunday. We couldn't be more excited.
Woo! As Wu would say.
Yes.
Hodor.
And this discussion already started to happen yesterday, and I think we started it last year as well, just because it's a natural fit, Survivor and Game of Thrones. In that, both are competitions to be, the first person, whether it's, the Game of Thrones or Game of Survivor. So, the question that we'll put to you guys, which Game of Thrones character would win Survivor Wisterios? And John, I'll let you start.
I think it's called Westeros, but that's my thing. I don't see an I in Westeros, but, pronounce it like Cheerios. Maybe that's your Canadianness coming out, where you add the extra U and things.
I think it misses it. Invert the R.
Maybe you're adding the I, because it's not there. Okay, so if we're starting with me, I think the easy pick for me would be Tyrion. And then if I'm making a dark horse, I'm going to keep it within the Lannisters, as they like to do, and I'll take Jaime.
All right, explain. Why Tyrion? Because, look, yes, you're right. It's so obvious a pick that you'll be surprised that I'm not taking that. But what's your argument? Why is Tyrion the winner?
He goes in, he's not a threat. If we're just following basic Survivor archetypes, he's not a threat, so once he makes the merge, he gets to start playing his social game, and he's very good at manipulating people, although obviously there are plenty of people on this show who are good at manipulating people. So I'm going to go with Tyrion there.
So my counter is that Tyrion's go-to move to get himself out of jams is, one, to rely on his brother, which is fine. Rely on your alliance mate. He forms an alliance with Jaime and Brom, and, let them do the heavy lifting like Todd did with James and Aaron. But his other move is, of course, to buy his way out with his family money, and I don't know if there's a Survivor parallel to that. Giving his idol away?
Hand over an idol. Exactly.
There you go.
What do you think, Matt? What do you think of Tyrion's chances before you have your own pick?
I think Tyrion has a good chance, but I think Tyrion's one of those people that could do everything right and people still wouldn't vote for him. And, because the thing about Tyrion, and I think this is, made clear, is, especially after season 2, at the beginning of season 3, You look at Tyrion, he does everything right, he saves the city, and he gets none of the credit, and everyone still hates him.
Yeah, even when he doesn't.
And that's not the way to win Survivor.
Yeah, he's still outmaneuvered by his sister and nephew. Oh wait, before we go any further, have you guys read the books?
I have.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we're only going to talk about the TV show because,
Okay.
those can't be spoilers at this point. If you haven't watched it, then that's on you. And also, really, if you haven't watched it, you will have no idea what we're talking about. Like, these names won't even mean anything to you because it's so hard to grasp when you came in.
And honestly, we hid this at the end of the podcast for a reason. So if you're not a Game of Thrones fans, you could just skip it.
I have not read the books because reading is for chumps. Just based on the TV show. What's your argument for Jaime?
Jaime's kind of the dark horse because I'm trying to think of a good corollary for him. Who would be a reasonable comp?
JT, maybe?
JT was the first one that came to mind, so I guess that would probably be the way to go. But he's not quite, because he's got a bit of he's slightly reviled, but at the same time, people, he is a good guy in some ways, and people will respect him, at least if they don't have some preconceived notions about him. So I'm trying to think who fits that. I never saw Aris's first season. Maybe that would work.
Cross between Heidick and JT? I don't know. Yeah, I mean, Jaime's basically a threat to go on the immunity run, because there's only 5 nights that have ever been better than him?
How's he going to go on an immunity run with one hand?
Hey, how did Tyson with a broken wing there, huh?
I was going to say, he's Tyson with the broken wing.
All right, Matt, who's your pick?
Varys.
Explain.
It's a lot of the same reasons you got Tyrion, though he falls into somewhat of the same trap where no one likes him, only I think he's actually just sneakier and more subtle than Tyrion is. I should say that Varys is, he's always the guy who I think is the one controlling things behind the scenes. So I think it would be, he wouldn't win Survivor, but he would basically choose who would win Survivor, which doesn't really have a comp.
Yeah, Varys is, he controls all the secrets. He knows everything. And in Survivor, information is currency. Just like in Westeros. Thank you. And basically the only reason why, he doesn't win is that he's playing a different game than everybody else.
Right. I mean, he doesn't win for the same reason why I don't think Tyrion would win, which is that no one actually likes him. Everyone needs him. No one likes him. He gets dawned in the end.
Ooh, good comp. Although I was going to give him the Sandra. If he's going to win, it's because he's making the Sandra move.
Or Heidick. He could totally Heidick it up.
Ooh, that would be fun too. And maybe then he would also shoot a dog.
Though I think actually Heidick's comp is Littlefinger.
Yeah.
All right, so Andy, who do you have winning?
So I have the winner. It's Daenerys, and she would come in like other pretty girls that have won, completely underestimated. She's just the person.
She would strip for peanut butter.
She's just the person that was dragged into the game by her alliance partner, thrown in with stronger, more dominant people, and eventually she winds up on top. You think Sierra is impressive that, she votes out her mother? She'd get rid of her brother. No problem. We know this. And she inspires people. She wins people over, whether it's, Sir Bannister.
She's Kim.
Whether it's, Sir Mormont, or whether it's, all of the slaves everywhere. She is underestimated all the time and always winds up on top.
Again, phrasing.
I'd say her dragons are her immunity idol. She always whips that out right when people doesn't think. You guys could just probably need to go to bed. But,
so many phrasings.
Yeah, she's classic Survivor winner.
So she's like Kim. Yeah, I'd agree.
No, she's Kim because she's smart and she has the, blue eyes, green eyes. I don't remember which. Anyway, and I also want to see both of them naked. So it's a great comp.
Yeah,
womp womp.
She wins people over at every turn, and the people she doesn't don't last very long. She's got the best social game. She makes alliances easy. So she's the winner. Another idea that came up in the comment boards that I liked from Survivor Breakdown, I believe it was Marjorie.
Yeah, and that the comp there was that she might be a Parvati type.
Yeah, I like
and I can see that.
Yeah.
She wins people over quickly, but without them even knowing it's happening. Interestingly, the people that are like most successful in Westeros, I think would do terrible in Survivor, and it's because they're successful due to their birth station. But yeah, like Joffrey, he's the first boot, right?
Yep.
And even Tywin, who is this amazing, intimidating monster of a man, like nobody's voting for him.
I'm trying to think of, like, the person that Tywin would resemble that actually got far in the game, and I'm struggling.
Like a Tom Westman.
Yeah, I guess.
But
Tom was liked.
Yeah, Tom was a generous of soul, But the absolute worst, of course, would be, a Stark. Robb Stark, his dad, they'd just be terrible at this game.
Okay, how about this Stark comp? Sansa Stark is Natalie White.
Oh, we really need to just webpage this and put up all these comps. It'd be fun. It's the side-by-side comparisons with pictures and everything. If I wasn't so lazy, I probably would get on it, but we'll see.
So yeah, I'm sure that we aren't the only people that are both Survivor nerds and Game of Thrones nerds. So if you guys have your own suggestions, or if you just want to declare a winner, hashtag Team Daenerys, hashtag Team Tyrion, hashtag Team Varys, and we'll see what's happening. But yeah, leave us a comment on one of the many places you can do so. So before we go out, we make predictions every week, even though we're terrible at it, of what's going to happen next week. One thing we do know is people are going to start hunting for that special powered idol.
The Medea idol.
What is it? Tyler Perry presents Tyler Perry?
Tyler Perry presents Tyler Perry's I Can Do Immunity All By Myself idol.
And if you're listening this far and you don't know what the special powers of this idol is, basically they brought back Yule and Terry's idol. You can use it post-vote.
Right.
Because Tyler Perry texted Jeff Probst, and that's the way decisions are made.
I wonder if he texts him in character. Does he say hello when he texts Jeff?
God damn it.
Like I said on the boards, I'm not sure these movies are released in Canada. It actually occurred to me, it's like, I've seen pictures, I know what it is, I know he's very successful. It has not entered my sphere whatsoever.
Is it racist if I ask, are there any black people in Canada?
It is not. The answer is yes, but it is a smaller percentage.
But they all play for the Toronto Raptors.
No, Toronto actually would probably have a big population, but it's a different kind of African-Canadian population.
African-Canadian.
Yeah, the culture is a little different than what I believe is from Medea. But anyway, getting back to the idols, it's found next week, right?
No.
Oh, you don't think it is?
Not next week. I think it goes another week. But it is going to get found.
See, I think the mad scramble that we saw in the previews is going to bring back, Russell truffle hunting for idols while everybody chases after him, which for all the Russell hate was one of the great moments in the history of Survivor. And I think, yeah,
can I just say how much I love how much the preview resembled the old movie It's a Mad, 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 Mad World?
Well, you're certainly entitled to say it, but I don't know that we'll catch the reference.
Yeah, I might know more about Medea movies. No, I know what you're talking about.
It's this old movie where it's like all these famous comedians are looking for a treasure, and and basically like the entire movie is them just like running around scrambling, to funny music while they look for it, and that's what that preview reminded me of. So, real old school pull there. Sorry about that.
So, do we have any predictions on who finds the idol, or it's like basically throw a name on a dartboard? I think we can all agree that Morgan's not finding the idol, right? Because she'd have to wake up in order to do that.
Get up from her coma and find it.
Or who would you like to find the idol?
Who do you think I would like to find the idol? The one who's the most entertaining to watch.
I mean, we're all Team TV, aren't we, at this point?
I don't know that I'm fully on board. Again, you gotta really reel me in, Tony, but I am rooting for Tony to get the idol just because I think it would be most fun to see him play it. It's kind of like I kept rooting for Russell to get idols just because it's fun to watch him use them.
But I'm just gonna flat out say it. We've already discussed it. I know Matt's there. Tony's my favorite player right now, and it's not close. He's been bringing the entertainment, and I can't even knock his moves. And yeah, it would be great for him to win it, also because, I need it. I need it for fantasy purposes. But yes, like you said, he'd do the most entertaining thing with the idol. I think the next most entertaining would be Spencer, just because having somebody on the other side have the idol would do more things to change this game than not.
I think the worst person would be Cass.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I think that's pretty safe to say.
You nailed it there. I didn't even occur to that possibility. Although, here's the thing. Everybody hates Cass on Twitter, and you almost think, like, if she had ended up in the jury house with them, shouldn't they be over it by now? Like, is she making the finals, and this is the first time they've had a chance to vent to her?
Could be.
No, I think she went to the jury house and was as much of a bitch there as she has shown herself to be.
Or maybe she wasn't, and then now they've seen her talk, and it's like, oh, why did I ever forgive this person? So who's going home next week? We'll make our predictions, and then you guys will know who's the next person to go on, because it'll be the person we don't say. Guest.
I'll say Tasha.
I'll say Jeremiah.
So my pick is Spencer, because I've just said it a few times, and I'm bound to be right if I keep saying one person's name. 2 reasons. One, at this point, you're looking the threat on the other side. They still wanted to take out her brain. But also, he made that comment to Cass at Tribal Council, and she seems like a petty person who goes after people that she doesn't like, and I could see that other side giving Cass one more vote because they don't care.
Well, actually, that's why I think it's going to be Tasha, because I think Cass sees Tasha siding with Sarah, or what she perceived as such, as being the betrayal.
And then my backup, if Spencer wins immunity, is Morgan for the same reasons. We see in the preview that she gets into a spat with Cass, and I could see Cass just like, that's it, we're going to vote for Morgan.
I still think they're going to go for the immunity threat and take out Jeremiah. Also, that I'm throwing a bone to Kristen Marie, our follower, who keeps rooting for Jeremiah to go home.
She's lucky we weren't doing power rankings this week.
I don't think he would have made mine, but anyway.
He would have made mine.
So let's wrap this thing up. Let's talk about how people can get a hold of us.
Yeah, so if you just kind of hang around on a Wednesday night, we'll probably contact you to be our podcast co-host.
Yeah, you might get a quick text sent your way an hour before we're about to record saying, hey, John's sick, can you fill in?
And then he'll be there. So you get those from our email account at purplerockpodcast@gmail.com, or maybe we'd send you a tweet at purplerockpod. If you'd like to and then if that happens, you contact us on Skype through JR Purple Rock. And if you want to follow the podcast and somehow you're listening to us but not, you could do that at purplerock.wordpress.com, where maybe we'll do a Game of Thrones post. Or find us on iTunes.
Maybe.
Anything else?
Yeah, that's the only ways you can contact us. You could try to text us, just randomly
figure out
text
our numbers.
Phone numbers. And say, are you John or Andy? And just keep doing that until you get through all the numbers. Eventually you'll find us.
Yeah, and then we get freaked out. Don't text us. That would scare the heck out of me. And me, who plasters his identity everywhere on the internet, would be like, oh, that was a mistake. So I want to thank Matt for, again, being a really great sport and offering to step in for people that are unwilling to give up their spotlight.
Womp womp. Nah, I'm glad to be here, guys.
Tight grip on my power here.
Phrasing.
One of these days, I'll knock one of you off. Secretly plotting behind the scheme. Now I'm the president.
Final 3, baby. Final 3. John, send us home.
We'll see you guys, hopefully, next week. Theme music.